Let's talk about a story that I think really gets to the heart of this pressure we all feel to have the perfect life, especially online. It's the story of a teenager named Mira, whose one tiny lie about being rich just spiraled until it became this huge deception that cost her everything she thought she ever wanted.
And it all came down to something so incredibly simple and so human. She just wanted to fit in. In a world that can feel so perfectly polished, Mira felt like her real, authentic self just wasn't good enough to be accepted.
You know how these things go. It started with something that felt totally harmless, a little fib to get through a super awkward moment. It's kind of that classic slippery slope, where one tiny lie just makes the next, bigger one feel so much easier to tell.
But see, a lie like that, it doesn't just sit there. It needs to be maintained. And then you need more lies to prop it up. It's exhausting having to constantly keep your story straight. And before she knew it, she was completely trapped in this web she'd built herself. Because here's the thing. Every single lie, no matter how clever it is, comes with a price tag. And for Mira, the cost was just devastating. To really understand how her entire world fell apart, we've got to go back to the very beginning to see exactly how this all started.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Mira is 17. She's navigating one of those high schools where your social status feels like everything. In her own words, she felt totally average, almost invisible, which, made her really vulnerable to the pressures that were about to come.
The environment at her school was all about showing off what you have. It's what sociologists call conspicuous consumption. You got the latest phones, the designer clothes, the expensive cars. It creates this intense social ladder. And if you feel like you're on a lower rung, the anxiety is just immense. So the tipping point comes during a totally normal lunch. Her classmates are just casually chatting about their last vacations to the Maldives, Dubai, London. These casual conversations were reinforcing this idea that to be someone, you had to have these expensive, exotic experiences. It was the perfect storm for a lie to be born.
And then boom, the spotlight's on her. It's that feeling when everyone suddenly turns to look at you, right? The social pressure just hits her like a ton of bricks, and she's panicking, feeling like she has to say something impressive.
So in that split second of panic, she just blurts it out. But the really crucial part is what happens next. She gets this instant positive feedback. Her friends are impressed. And that little bit of approval, it was like a powerful reward that basically validated the lie and made her way more likely to do it again.
So that one moment of validation, it was all the fuel she needed. And it led directly to the next phase, actually building an entire fake life. That one little lie about a farmhouse in Goa, it became the first brick in a whole new identity, built piece by piece just to fit in.
So she's basically living this double life. As you can see here, her reality was pretty normal, average even. But online, she created this whole world of luxury, using pictures she just found on the internet. It was a complete fantasy, but it gave her the validation she wasn't getting in her real life.
And then the lie gets cemented when she gets attention from Arav, the most popular boy in school. For Mira, his validation was the ultimate prize. It made the fantasy feel real, and it made the stakes of ever admitting the truth just sky high.
But here's the thing about a life built on lies. It's like a house of cards. It's so fragile. And it started to fall apart with a simple, real-world suggestion that threatened to shatter her entire digital illusion.
And the suggestion comes from Arav himself. In that single moment, her two separate worlds were about to collide, head-on. Her digital fantasy was being called into the real, physical world, a world where, of course, there was no farmhouse.
So now she has a choice. Come clean or dig the hole even deeper. And she does what so many of us might do in a panic. She escalates. She tells another lie to cover the first one. But this time, the excuse was just too flimsy, and people started getting suspicious. The whispers started.
And just like that, everything at school changed. Mira started feeling it immediately. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and the conversation just stops? The sideways glances? Her friends had sensed something was off, and the verdict was already coming in, even before the hard evidence was out.
The final nail in the coffin came in the most modern way possible, a social media post. Someone had found her photos and put them side by side with the original images from real estate websites and Google. In our world, lies leave a digital trail, and the evidence against her was right there for everyone to see.
And when Ara finally confronted her, it just crystallized everything. But what's so telling is he wasn't just angry, he was disappointed. And that really gets to the heart of it. He was reacting to a breach of trust, which is so much more painful than just anger. And her silence? Well, that was her confession.
And this is where we get to the final, and maybe the most important part of her story. What happens after the lie is exposed? Being publicly outed like that led to a total breakdown for Mara, but it also led to this moment of painful, crystal clear realization.
Hitting rock bottom basically forced her hand. And honestly, at some point, keeping up the lie is just more exhausting than facing the truth. So she decided to take all that energy she was pouring into the deception and just be honest. She started with a full confession to everyone.
And when she finally told the truth, the reaction was exactly what you'd expect. Some people laughed at her. Others, friends she thought she had, just walked away. But the interesting thing? A few stayed. This whole awful experience ended up being a filter, showing her who her real friends actually were.
And that's really the core lesson here, isn't it? The glamorous, popular life she'd built was completely hollow. And when it all came crashing down, what was left was smaller and quieter, but it was finally real. It was her, just herself, free from all that pressure to perform.
Her story, I think, teaches all of us something pretty powerful. Chasing after some fake image of ourselves, pretending to be someone we're not, it's just an empty and exhausting game. Real value, the stuff that actually lasts, is in being authentic. Just being you, flaws and all.
And that really just leaves us with one big question, especially today. In a world that so often seems to reward the perfect image over the real person, we have to decide for ourselves every single day what's actually more valuable in the long run. A perfect, beautiful lie or a messy, complicated, imperfect truth.